And welcome back. You're listening to Hysteria, the podcast for people who believe there should be a federal law against being barefoot on airplanes, like there's a law against smoking. Alyssa, thoughts? Why didn't you get this passed? Obama should have got. Why didn't Obama
You know
do
why,
this?
Erin? There are certain things you don't need. You don't think you actually need laws to tell people to not do. Okay, just put your socks on at least.
It's like when you get an iron and it's like, don't wear clothes while you iron. And you're like, somebody ironed with clothes on. And that's
Someone
why.
ironed with clothes on.
And before Mitt Romney was doing it in that documentary about, do you guys remember that?
Yes.
I think it's My Roman Empire. I think about Mitt Romney ironing his clothes while he's wearing them from that documentary about the 2012
But it's
presidential
got to
race.
be thick wool.
Yeah. Is that something about like the garments he's wearing?
I don't know,
underneath?
but he was like, it was like weirdly the moment where I was like, I don't fully hate Mitt Romney.
No, we were
I
so
was like-
glad that it came out after the election.
Yeah. It made him so likable.
I was like, oh, he's charming.
I would not mind sitting next to him on a long flight.
No.
He would wear socks, at least.
He would 100% wear socks. And he would ask you, if he was sitting in front of you, he would ask if it was okay to recline.
Yes.
Yeah, he's got bad policy ideas, and I disagree with a lot of what he thinks, but I think he would be a courteous person when you shared space with him.
Yeah.
And that is a low bar to clear. So we're going to talk about travel today. Really excited about it. This is a special holiday week bonus episode. Thanksgiving week is a week where I think it's the busiest travel day of the year, the Wednesday before Thanksgiving. And it's hell, and yet people do it. It continues to be the most popular travel day of the year, mystifying to me. But we're going to bring a panel together to share our horror stories, our tips, our tricks for traveling. At least it'll be cathartic if you're stuck in an airport while you're listening to this. Okay, so bringing in our panel. Our first panelist is a New York Times best-selling author. Her latest book, Immortality, a Love Story, is out now. Dana Schwartz, welcome to Hysteria.
Thank you for having me.
Every time you're here, I'm like, it's been too long.
It's been too long. I miss you.
I miss you. We are almost neighbors.
I know. We're a neighborhood away. But in Los Angeles, that's a city away.
I know. I have to get in a car. I have to sit down. I have to put on a seatbelt. I have to drive. It's a lot. You know?
This is a busy travel season. Asking you to do any more travel is too much.
I know. I feel like it'd be quicker on bike some days. Our next panelist is a comedian and the host of That's Messed Up, an SVU podcast, which will finish up its 2023 tour in Sacramento, New York, and Philly in December. Get your tickets. Klenk, welcome to Hysteria.
Hello, Erin. Thank you for having me back.
So excited.
We live
that
close
you're
to each other, and I stop by whenever I want.
I know.
I'm always like, I'm outside. Are you home?
We have like a pretty bonkers Halloween display, and neighborhood children like to walk by and look at it.
Rosie like remembers specific things they have. She's like, where are the hands? Why aren't the hands moving?
Yeah, there's like hands that dig out of it. We kept it up for an extra week after Halloween. We didn't light it because I was like, that's too much. I know. You could have come by. Our final panelist is an Emmy-nominated comedian who just taped her stand-up special Assault on Comedy in LA. Coming soon to a streaming service near you, Kiran Deol, welcome to Hysteria.
Hello.
So glad to have you back.
I know, here we are. We're in person.
We're in person.
Just touching
Yeah.
Kara. Weird.
Just-
Be weird.
We all traveled to get here.
Mhm.
So let's talk about travel, horror stories, tips, whatever. Alyssa, are you traveling for Thanksgiving this year?
No.
You're not traveling at all? Not even going to a different house?
Oh, I am going to a different house. I will be going to my parents' house. I'm in charge of the sweet potatoes and setting the table. And yes, it doesn't get any different as you get older.
Wait, this is very important to me. Are your sweet potatoes, is it like a casserole form? And are we doing like nuts or marshmallows on top?
Okay, so Dana, I bake the sweet potatoes and then I do a little bit of butter. I do 1 egg. I do some lemon zest and a little brown sugar.
That is my ideal sweet potato.
Bake it. And then when I take it down to my parents' house, I put marshmallows on top and give them a little toasty roasty.
That sounds unbelievable. That sounds perfect.
I made it up.
I'm hungry. Thank you. I can't eat now. I can't eat for like 2 hours because we're recording and now I'm hungry. Thank you very much. Dana, do you travel for Thanksgiving?
I do. So my family is in Chicago. I used to always go back to Chicago, but my husband's family is in Portland. And so this is the first year I'm ever not like, I'm going to someone else's family for Thanksgiving. Last year was the Chicago year. this year's a Portland year.
Oh, wow. So you're going to switch off every
Yeah.
year and you're never going to have Thanksgiving at your real house.
Well, neither of our families are here, so
Yeah.
it would be a very lonely Thanksgiving.
That makes sense. I feel when I think of Chicago around Thanksgiving, I think of planes, trains, and automobiles.
It's
Yes,
so John
definitely.
Hughes core. My town, like where I grew up, a lot of John Hughes stuff was filmed. So like the Cameron's like weird ravine house from Ferris Bueller's in my town.
Yeah.
So it's like
Yeah.
it's all very John Hughes, coming home for Christmas, coming home for Thanksgiving. I don't know what Portland is like for Thanksgiving, but I will find out.
Did you drive a Ferrari through your glass home window?
It was me. I actually grew up with access to a Ferrari.
Wait,
and
did you
the
guys
large glass?
hear though that the actor that plays Cameron just drove his Rivian through like a pizza
he
place
did
in
in
Los
Hollywood.
Angeles?
On Halloween,
Yeah.
he did it. He drove his truck
Yeah.
into.
And it was just like the comments were just
Well,
Ferris
that was
Bueller
festive
jokes.
of him.
Like his dad's gonna kill him. You know?
Was it for fun or what was?
I feel like people were acting like the car malfunctioned, but I don't know. I actually don't know the rest of the
I
story.
mean, people drive around there all the time,
Yeah.
and he's the first one to crash his truck into a pizza
Into a
place.
pizza place.
So if the car malfunctioned, that's a very rare malfunction. Yeah, super weird. Also, he ended up playing libertarian weirdo in Succession.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're proud of him.
Yeah, I like to imagine that the characters exist in the same reality. Like Ferris Bueller and Succession are both like in the same,
Yeah.
universe. Kiran, are you traveling for Thanksgiving?
No, I think people are coming here. The one thing I will say about this is because a lot of people don't have enough time off for the holidays.
Yeah.
So that's that's why I get so busy. It's like there's so little. It's weird to come. Like I was in Europe for a couple months, and they get a lot more time off in general.
Mm-hmm.
So the reason you have these shit show airport blockage bullshit nonsense is because everyone needs more time off.
Yeah, we all have to go Wednesday.
Yeah, it's like if you only have Wednesday and to Sunday or whatever it is, and you get that whatever, and plus the other week and a half that you get, yeah, of course everyone's going to go travel. I sympathize with you people.
Well, Kara, you have like 2 kids.
Yeah.
Not like 2 kids. You have
Like
literally
a full 2 kids.
Literally 2 children. Do you travel for Thanksgiving or do you stick around?
Hell no. No, we don't ever travel for Thanksgiving. That's too small of a window for me, and I'm not doing it. And I don't care about Thanksgiving enough. Like it's not for me. For Christmas holidays, we do every other year, staying in LA and traveling.
Mhm.
This is a travel year, so I'm stealing myself. So we are traveling for the Christmas holidays, but Thanksgiving, we usually do it with friends. This year, all of our friends are going out of town, and so we're going to a steakhouse in Beverly Hills. We're just eating out
Amazing.
because I'm a vegetarian, so I'm not going to like make a turkey.
But the sides, steakhouse
and the sides
sides.
at steakhouses are great. Like my kids will have the mac and cheese and some mashed potatoes or whatever.
That's amazing.
And yeah, my brother's coming into town because he's en route to Japan, so he's
Okay.
stopping for Thanksgiving. So I'll have like one family member, and it'll be small and chill. But yeah, Thanksgiving, I cannot be moved to travel on Thanksgiving.
I don't do it either. And that's because I am kind of a jerk about being inconvenienced too much. Like I live halfway across the country. It is massively expensive for me to travel to like a small airport on a very busy weekend. And I just I refuse to be treated like an animal. Like airlines treat you like an animal, and I'm not going to do it. The holiday is not worth it. I will come out for a random weekend in March and we'll have like a nice dinner then. But like, I feel like part of Thanksgiving is like buying into like a lie that you all have to travel now and you all have to spend all this money now. And it like the lie making us travel and pressuring us to be somewhere like fuels our economy, which I kind of don't like. And then also Thanksgiving week where I grew up is deer season.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And it's gross. It's a real gross time. Everything smells like blood.
Ew.
There are carcasses everywhere. Like if you drive into town, you stop at the gas station or you stop at, I don't know, the coffee shop, the bakery. There's just trucks with like deer carcasses just laid out in the back.
Erin, I gotta tell you, one of my worst travel experiences was returning up to Vermont after Thanksgiving in the early 90s when there was a crash of cars with deer carcasses going into the toll booth on I-87.
Oh my
And
God.
Erin,
Specific.
it was just deer. I remember it. It was so traumatizing. There was just deer carcass all over. You literally couldn't get to the toll booth. It was
Oh
so
my
fucking
God.
gross. So yes,
Oh my
I feel you.
God.
Same.
Someone hit a deer. I'm from Connecticut, very heavy. I've hit 3 deer with my car. Someone hit a deer in front of my house, and my dad strung it up in our backyard.
Oh yeah,
for
that's the thing.
days, and goes, I'm gonna dress this deer. I go, you don't know how to do that. I mean, I didn't say that because I was like 13. So he like left it there until it like rotted, and he like never got around to it. I was so
God.
gross.
Where I grew up, if you hit a deer and the deer isn't too damaged, like you can call your neighbor, call someone who lives nearby, and you're like, look, I just hit this deer, and they'll come and like,
Go grab it.
yeah, they'll grab it.
I gotta call this. Is this a travel talk or deer talk?
I mean, that's the thing is going on.
Yikes.
The deer thing is part of the reason I don't travel for Thanksgiving. If it was like a pleasant time to
It is
be
gross.
back,
Yeah.
I will say, in defense of Thanksgiving, I'm a Jewish person. My family doesn't do Christmas. Thanksgiving is our big
family.
winter
holiday.
family holiday where it's like, this is truly the first Thanksgiving I won't be with my family since COVID.
Uh-huh.
I mean, with the exception of COVID, I have been with my family for Thanksgiving every year because that is our fall holiday.
That makes sense. I mean, like Christmas is
Yeah.
much bigger for us.
Yeah.
And so traveling a month before Christmas in a much less pleasant context is like so not worth it. Like almost makes me mad that people would even expect me to do it.
Yeah.
I know. I'm mad that the people who are going home for Christmas, I'm like, just wait. I need this one.
Sure. Yeah, that makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah.
It feels like
Either
it is an
way.
either or. It feels like an either or.
And to be
do
clear,
understand.
I am a Jew who celebrates a cultural Christmas.
Yeah. I won't fly home in December for all of the aforementioned reasons. It's too soon after Thanksgiving.
Alyssa, do you have any like travel nightmares? Doesn't need to be holiday travel. Just what's your worst travel story?
My worst travel memory for all the youth who listen, before there was the internet, we were taking a trip as a family, and it was in the middle of winter. It was like February, and like it had started snowing, and we were like, okay, it's snowing a little bit. We ended up driving from upstate New York down to Newark in a blizzard as we were all buckled into, I think it must have been the Ford Taurus station wagon back then. There was another car that turned the wrong way and was coming at us on the highway. Like it was in the wrong lane. It was so scary. And my sister and I are in the back seat and we're like, oh my God. My dad's like, everyone be silent. Everyone be silent. We get to the airport. We get to the airport. As the airport closes, everything, it turns out to be this epic blizzard. Everyone is trapped. We see my friend on like local New York One or whatever it was with his parents and his surfboard because they were on their way to Hawaii, like with his surfboard, like dragging it across some shutdown road. We have no idea what highway it was, but we're like, we think that's Sean. And I think we were
that the news person saw a kid with a surfboard and was like, get that shot.
Get that guy.
100%. It was perfect. And we knew it was him. And I think that we slept on the floor of the airport with I can't remember. I asked my sister, I can't remember who it was, some famous actor, I think from One Life to Live, for like 36 hours. I think we slept in the airport. And then we finally, like a plane to here, a plane to there, we finally got where we were going. But that was like my most traumatic memory of travel was definitely
Did you
starting
actually sleep?
off.
You slept for 36 hours?
We were like, like think about it. There was no iPads. I think we had brought, some Beverly Cleary books with us. And we just sat there and you ate Pizza Hut, right? That's what the airport had back then. So you
Love
had like,
Pizza Hut.
and they had to ration because there was no food coming into the airport because of the snow.
my God.
So that was my,
Oh my God.
I have other travel stories where I actually messed up and it was kind of my fault why it was a disaster, but that was the one purely out of our hands.
Oh my God. Yeah. God didn't want you to go on that trip.
No.
God was like, you're staying back. Dana, what's your biggest travel horror story? And sorry if I'm everybody's making faces like they're remembering like the awfulness of bad travel.
That is a nightmare to me. That is genuinely a nightmare. And I can't remember. I don't think I've ever had an experience even close to that bad. I'm an over planner with traveling. I'm just like, I plan everything. I confirm everything. I have multiple spreadsheets and Google Docs. So if a disaster happens, I have failed at some point.
What is in the spreadsheets?
Confirmation numbers, phone numbers of like the people I made the reservations with. Just
You're
like
airport
everything.
dad.
I'm an airport dad.
Airport dad.
Recently, though, I was flying from a tiny, tiny airport in Cornwall in England, like an airport with like 3 runways total. And I had a layover in Dublin, and the layover was only like an hour and 40 minutes. And then my flight was delayed. And then it kept being delayed to the point where I'm like, okay, now I have a 20-minute layover for an international airport. And eventually, literally sprinting through the airport with people being like, run. Like at the airport, they knew that our plane was coming, and there were like 40 of us who needed to like get to that transfer. And we were sprinting through the airport. But of course, my checked bag didn't make it. And my transfer was to Chicago. Like I wasn't going home. Like I needed my things because I wasn't home. But I had an AirTag in my suitcase. And so even though my bag was delayed and they kept saying, we'll deliver it, it was like 3-4 days and my bag still hadn't come. And I kept like calling the airline being like, I need my bag. I'm, leaving eventually. I need it. And the AirTag showed that it was at the airport. Even though the airport people were like, it's with our delivery company. It's a separate company. It's out of our hands. I drove to O'Hare Airport with my AirTag and went to a desk and said, it is here. I need my bag. And they like unlocked a room and they found it. And I got my bag and drove home.
Oh my God. That is a nightmare.
Put an AirTag in your bags, people.
Yeah.
That's my tip.
Oh my gosh. That's great. Great tip. Kieran, travel horror stories.
What is an AirTag?
It is a thing for stalkers and creeps to use to harass women, I think.
Yeah,
but it's also
like controlling spouses.
Just like a little GPS
It's a GPS tracker
thing.
that you can get for Apple for $80.
But it's great for like if you're moving, if you hire a moving company to like put it in your stuff so like if you use like a pod thing or whatever, you can know where your stuff is. If you use like, if you ship a car across the country, put an AirTag in there, you can keep track of it.
And if you have a connecting flight, you will know whether your bag made it on the plane or not. And you will be in Chicago being like, my bag is in Dublin.
This assumes that you have a lot of nice things. I'm willing to let almost anything burn. Quite frankly, have it, don't. Who cares? I do remember there was an arsonist in my neighborhood during COVID because
he
was bored. There was a lot of random arson during COVID.
There was hella arson. There was
trying to have
arson.
some fun.
We all lost our minds. We literally, and I think a certain number of people have an arsonist deep down in them, and it takes something like COVID to bring it out.
Well,
in defense of arsonists.
I know. I was not
expecting. Does this have a connection to trackers?
Well, it's going to. It's going to have a connection to things. I said I let it burn, and then it reminded me because this is. So in the place right next, my apartments, there's a gate and the garage right opposite it, right? That burned down. Okay. That was the thing that burned and the firefighters came and it was very impressive to watch them. But my house was very close to that thing. And I remember kind of stepping outside, my car's there and I'm like watching it. And I'm like, huh. And I was like, well, I have my laptop and I have my passport. Yeah, fine, whatever. It's going to be what it is. And someone else runs out. They move their car. They do a whole thing. They move the car so that the car is safe. It didn't even occur to me to move the car, which I think is very funny. And then I went to England for several months. Arsonist strikes again. Gate melts. That guy's car gets fucked up. My car's fine. My car is totally fine. I was like, look at that. House didn't burn.
I love my stuff. I'm like, I feel like a peaceful and zen existence. And I love my stuff so much. I want to be buried with it like King Tut.
That's the most American thing I've ever heard you say.
Well, Kiran, have you ever had like a nightmare travel situation? Yeah,
the one that I think was like the scary, I travel a lot for stand-up, which I'm sure Kara can relate to. So it's like, this made me laugh because this is in America. It was like, I remember one time I was supposed to go on a flight to Boston, kept getting delayed. So we had to go back to the airport like 6 times in order to make this thing. But one time they were like, yeah, man, the pilot's just too tired. And I was like, yeah, man, we should go home. Like a job I don't want somebody doing too tired is
Let's call it.
Yeah, I was like, let's call it. Like you take a nap, sis. You do you. Don't fly. You don't need to overwork.
Right.
Like this isn't fucking Google. Like just keep us alive. We want to get to the destination in one place. But the one that was the scariest travel story was I was in India and I got a ticket where you can stop off at different places. And I had an aunt who said this to me and she's like, she's German. She's like, I cannot believe that this is the story you tell and remember about me. But before we were going like I went backpacking in Europe with my cousin. And before we went, she goes, okay, girls, just remember, it was during college. She goes, just remember, if things ever get too bad, you just take out a credit card, you like walk into a nice hotel and you just put the credit card down and then you deal with it in the morning, is what she said. And it's like, it's a very like reassuring. She's like, this makes me sound like such a bitch. And I was like, it's like a rich bitch. But I was like, it is a very reassuring thought that it's like, wherever you are in the world, you have a credit card. If things get scary or shady, you put the credit card down and you walk into a nice place at night, you put the credit card down, you figure it out when there's daylight and you'll be okay. So I'm on a train track in India at midnight where all of the hotels are closed.
Oh.
Every hotel is closed. It's a small town and my ticket is for the wrong day to catch the layover in that city. And I was freaking out because they don't let you on the train. I was like truly panicking because I was like, where am I going to sleep? Like I can't stay on this, there's nobody, it's a ghost town kind of vibe because it's so small. Felt very unsafe, very, I love Alyssa's face during this. She's like, tell me. And then and then on the third class sleeper train, because they have these like classes, there were these like 3 dudes sitting there and they're like, hey man, this is in Hindi, but they were basically like, hey man, relax. And they gave me like this little glass of like hot almond milk. And they're like, it's okay. You can sit with us. You can sit with us. And so it was like, they all like scooted over and gave me like half their bench so that I could get to Delhi. And they were so nice. And I was like, oh, people help people sometimes. It's very sweet.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
A travel nightmare turned into a travel dream.
I wouldn't say it was a dream.
Nice.
I wouldn't say it was a dream.
Well, but
A story, an anecdote.
a nice, like a fairy tale of people being nice.
Yeah. a nice people fairy tale. Yeah.
Kara, how about you?
Oh gosh. Well, you mentioned I have 2 kids. So truly any traveling for me now when they're not with me is a dream. Like I'll be going to the most bullshit little airport. I'll have 3 layovers. I'll be like, whatever. My kids are here. I can read a magazine. I can watch a movie. Like this is the best. But recently, last Valentine's Day, my husband and I got booked to do a stand-up show together, like a couples show in Aspen. And, we were like, okay, we got a babysitter for our kids overnight, which is difficult. And, we don't have family here, so we have to pay for it. And when we get on the plane, we get this like captain that goes, I'm going to be honest with you guys. I think we're going to Denver. I don't think we're going to land in Aspen. Like that's my job. I land in Aspen. It's not happening today. There's snow. Not going to happen. I was like, cool. So I like quickly rent a car before we take off. We do end up getting diverted to Denver. I have to white knuckle it through 3.5 hours through the Rockies to get to Aspen. So we make the show. We're like 20 minutes late. We do the show. We go to sleep. We're like, great. We'll just get out of here in the morning. And then that night people had said, no planes came in today, so it might be hard for you to get out tomorrow. And I was like, oh, whatever. We haven't heard anything from Delta, so we're probably fine. And we wake up in the morning, flight's canceled. We have to drive all the way back to Denver. Then when we get to Denver, delays. We're on the plane. We keep getting messages while we're on the plane. And there's like one man, there's always like one guy on every flight who's like, it's only happening to him. And he just keeps getting the flight text going, like swearing and screaming. And I'm like, sir, like everyone on the plane is getting the same text that we're delayed. Finally, they go, I'm sorry, you guys all have to get off the plane. Now at this point, the crew is overworked. Like they're over their time. And so we were like, what? So we have to sleep over at the Denver airport while construction is going on. So I just sleep on a bench. Also. It's a cursed airport. Yeah. It's like supposedly run by the Illuminati and there's lizard people living under it or whatever.
Yeah.
But
plus
like,
that evil horse. And
the horse. And so like.
What horse?
There's like a demon horse
There's like
statue.
a stag kind of.
Outside of the Denver airport. Google Denver airport curse after the show. Yeah. And you will have a whole day of joyful rabbit holing.
Between this and the deer story, I'm like, I am with white people.
Wow.
My God.
But we just had to sleep there while jackhammers went off for 5 hours. We got on the first flight out, but like we had to get someone to stay an extra night with our kids. Like it was the worst.
Oh,
You know?
that's rough. I've got a few real bad ones. I have just a kind of standard delay situation. I was in Puerto Rico. This was like many years, maybe 9 or 10 years ago. I was with an ex-boyfriend. He had just gotten a job writing for a late night show. And so like they have very specific times that they're off and very specific time. Like you don't get to take days off unless you're like literally in the hospital. But they do get like 2-week breaks every, you know, on intervals. And so when he was like on a break, it was like, that's when we can do something like go away. We don't have any other option. Anyway, so we were in Puerto Rico and we were going to fly back to New York. And there was a blizzard like all up and down the East Coast.
I think I was there at the same time.
Were you in Puerto Rico?
Yeah. Was it New Year's?
It was New Year's.
Yes. I was in Puerto Rico in 2013.
Yes.
New
so
Year's.
was I.
And we had to stay 2 extra days.
So did
and
we.
Jared was like, my husband is like a swamp person, like so light, like so fair, like doesn't really like the sun. And he just was like, I gotta get out of here. Like
Yeah.
he couldn't stand being in Puerto Rico anymore. He was just in the room playing games on his phone. And I was like at the pool, like, okay, 2 extra days in Puerto Rico.
Yeah, I know. I was kind of excited about it. We were on the west coast of Puerto Rico, and we had originally had a flight that flew to San Juan, but they canceled that flight to San Juan. So we were like, no, we're going to rent a car because it's very important that we get out of here.
Yeah. I
And
think
so-
it was a polar vortex. It
Yes.
was one of like those
Yeah.
huge things.
Yeah, yeah. And so we rented a car, we rented the last car, drove to San Juan, got there, and they're like, we can get you to DC. And so we were like trying to figure out if we could rent a car from DC. And meanwhile, I'm like, I'm not really that desperate to get home.
Yeah.
But anyway, it was like just very tense. We ended up spending a day in the airport and then just getting a hotel. And we were about to go to bed and we got a text. It's like, you're on a plane that's leaving at 2 a.m. So,
Oh my God.
yeah, we did get back to New York, but it was horrible. It was like 24 hours of no sleep. And the San Juan airport is designed in a way that is hostile. Like there is no, like the benches have like bars between each individual butt area of seating. So you can't lie down on the benches. The floors do not have carpeting. There's only like a couple little areas that have like carpeting so you could lie down not on tile. It was an egregious place. It was like a bus station. I mean,
I
it's
remember.
very clean. It's very clean. It's very modern, but it's a bus station. And like it was just not great. And then my other bad travel story was I was in Nepal, and Nepal is not a place with a ton of great travel infrastructure, understandably. As Kiran knows, she spent a lot of time there. I was in a town called Jomson at the end of the Annapurna Trail, and there's an airport in Jomson and like regular flights that take off. In order to get from Jomson back to kind of like civilization, like Pokhara or Kathmandu, you have to like either take a flight that's like an hour that just kind of hops over Annapurna, or you have to take a Jeep, which costs like almost as much as a plane, and it takes 8 hours, and you have to drive around the mountains. And I had a plane ticket, but they canceled all the planes for the day because there were clouds over the mountains. And at the time I was like, what? Why can't you just fly over the mountains? But apparently people crash into the mountains all the time when there's clouds. You shouldn't fuck with that. Anyway, I ended up having to take a Jeep, and the roads are very they're not smooth. You know, they don't need to be. There's not a lot of people traveling on the roads. The roads were so bumpy and the Jeep suspension was like so bad that I had to travel with my like hands holding my boobs. I was wearing a sports
Oh my
bra.
God.
And it was like the jostling was so intense that it was like boom, boom, boom. And so I just had to ride like this, sandwiched in between two extremely crabby German girls who were so mad that we had to be on a Jeep.
Ooh, manual sports bra. That's tough.
Yeah, it was so bad. I still think about it sometimes. It's like, it was 7 hours of
Oh
this.
my God.
7 hours of that. But we did make it to Pokhara, and it was fine. But it was just like a very long travel day. But I'm glad we didn't fly into the mountains. That would have been probably not great.
One of my favorites in Nepal was like, because I don't even count it. It's like, yeah, I mean, it's fucking crazy.
yeah.
It's nuts. It's Nepal. It's like, what do you want? But we went, I was in a Jeep one time to go to we were meeting like the rebel soldiers, right? Because I made before I was a stand-up comedian, I was a documentary filmmaker, which is what everyone wants to hear from their stand-up comedian. And And so the roads are like, you know, they're not totally paved, they're dirt, right? Because it's like people aren't going on those roads to meet those rebel soldiers, so they're really not very well frequented, and there's rain. So this road had become very muddy, and it's on the side of a mountain.
Oh my
and
God.
it's a guy, you know, a guy is driving it, and I'm with like a couple like Nepali people, one girl who's gonna like translate to get over this, and we can't get through the side of this thing, and he keeps backing up and then like revving the engine and like go. And I think it's amazing to me how willing I am to just completely put my life into someone else's hands, because it is very possible that he could. And we all were kind of like aware of it, but I was like, no, it seems fine. This guy,
He knows what he's
this guy's
doing.
good. This guy knows the thing.
Wow.
This guy
Yeah.
knows the thing.
I remember one time it was same trip. There was like a really long backup of cars, and all the men were like getting out of the cars to like go to the front of the traffic to see what it was, which of course was making the traffic worse. But what it was two trucks that they were trying to like meet going opposite directions around a corner, and they couldn't do it, but they got so close, and then every car got really close behind them, so they couldn't back
Oh
up.
my God.
And then so like, you know, eventually I could kind of like see the original like sin of the traffic jam, and eventually the two doors of the trucks open and the two truck drivers got out, and they could not have been more than 11 years old. Both of them. They were children. And then eventually we all had to like, every car had to back up so that the trucks could go like in Austin
my
Powers, that like
God.
75-point turn. That was pretty crazy too. Yeah, Nepal travel is like a different thing.
I forgot. Yeah. And then because I extended my trip a lot of times, so I had to get out of that airport, and they like wouldn't. I went there like 5 or 6 times to this airport, like just to the airline's office. And eventually I needed these 2 missionaries that I was friends with. They're like, this is fucking ridiculous. They're not doing, you know, so they get out of the car, and I remember they look at each other and they go, good cop, bad cop. And then they nod at each other, and then they walk in, and then one, she's like throwing a fit. She's like Karening she has a little notepad, and then she's like, what's your name? And then she'll just like write it down, and then she's like, and how do you spell that? To like 7 people, while the other one is like, I'm so sorry. You know, she gets like this, she gets so upset, you know. And they did this through like 8 people to like the head of the whatever, and then they did get me out. They got the ticket issued that day, and it was quite a feat to watch.
Oh, wow.
It happened.
It is a superpower.
Well, speaking of that,
The Karen.
Yeah.
Karen
Being
for
able
good.
to use the Karen for good.
The Karen for good.
Yeah, sometimes you have to. Sometimes you have to Karen, and it's not. I mean, it's not. She didn't go into full meltdown. She just was being a little bit, you know.
Well, there was a
Clippy.
point, I think when she said, I have nothing better to do with my day than to call this office, you know? I don't do anything. I have nothing. So I will spend all of my time just calling this office.
Oh wow, yeah, that's pretty intense.
I think about, sometimes I think that's one of, I just find that hilarious.
Yeah.
The idea that this is it now. This is my mission.
This is
is
what
what
I'm
I'm-
doing. My job is to make your life more difficult. Alyssa, if you're traveling into a like hairy situation, so like a busy travel weekend,
Yes.
notoriously awful airport, whatever. What are your like personal rules for planning so that you don't experience a disaster?
Couple things. 1, you're never cutting it close. You are never cutting it close. This is not the time of year to be like, oh, my flight's in an hour and a half. I'll get there right in time to board. No. Allow yourself plenty of time. Do not check a bag. Don't check a bag. And the last thing that is the most important, I think, noise canceling headphones, not earbuds,
Ooh.
headphones, the kind that don't need to be charged. You can just sit there. Because the one thing I have noticed, maybe it's just me getting older, entirely plausible. Everyone is so loud to me. It's like everyone is so loud. Like, why can't you
Oh
have
my
personal
God.
conversations? People just sit like absolute barbarians listening to their iPhone with no earbuds on. And they're just like, you're like involved in whatever stupid thing it is they're watching. So as long as I can like shut off the world, I can have all of my things right in front of me. I've let nothing out of my sight. Also, I mean, probably bring a granola bar or something just in case. But for the most part, noise canceling headphones and not checking a bag and not rushing are my like 3 keys to success.
Okay. Okay, Dana, how about you?
I'm right there with Alyssa on the not playing it close. I'm an airport dad. I like a good 2 hours.
Yes, ma'am.
Minimum. And I don't like being physically in any state of physical discomfort for even a moment. And so I like, if I'm traveling, I overplan. I go
You're
through
Kim
everything.
Cattrall. You don't want to be in a position for more than a minute
second.
where you're not enjoying yourself.
Exactly. And so I will pack my bag. I will have enough snacks so that hypothetically, if I'm like stuck on a runway for 10 hours, I won't even be a minute of hunger. I have so many granola bars, external chargers, like just plan everything the night before. I'm a very good packer.
Do you enjoy the planning though? Because Kim Cattrall's having a nice time, but all this planning sounds very bad.
I do.
No, the
it
planning
makes me feel good
because I feel in control.
Exactly. If I'm like, and also my pro tip is if you can afford it and you can, flying out of Burbank rather than LAX.
Oh my God. If they went anywhere I had to go, I would love it. It's the best.
They go to
Burbank,
Portland,
you
and
like
that is-
land and you just get into your car immediately.
You're there. You're home.
It's like
I'm
amazing.
home. It lets me off at my front door.
Yeah. It's so good.
The airplane actually drops you off
it drops
at home.
me off. It's
Yeah.
really nice.
Well, that's in Minneapolis. There are 2 terminals, and if you land in Terminal 2, the smaller one, it is like Burbank sized. So like you can just.
I was just there, but I was at the big one.
Oh, the little one is a dream. It's like landing in Madison, Wisconsin, which is just like it's so small. You get there, it's like there's so many checkpoints, and there's only like 2 people in line. You get there, and it's just like so nice, but. Yeah, unfortunately, if you can't really control which terminal you land at in Minneapolis, it's really a heads or tails type thing.
I like to treat an airport like a gym. I like to treat it like a workout. So I would say, it's like I had an uncle who's traveled the world, and it was so fun to watch him travel because it's like getting dropped off. That's where he's getting his exercise. He's fucking running through the airport. He's doing it. He's missing flights. It doesn't matter. And this cunt can sleep anywhere. I actually think you just need to be able to sleep anywhere and like be ready for an adventure. Do you know what I mean? Go out.
This
out
is
on
the
these
opposite
streets.
This is like
idea.
making me have a stomach ache.
I know. And it's like, when I'm listening to you, I'm like, both of you, I'm just like cringing. Do you know what I mean? I'm like cringing in my you're like, I have to control things. And I was like, you're going to die. Like,
that's why
do
I
you
have
know
to
you're
control
gonna
things.
die? Like it's still gonna happen
but
to you.
Honestly, like I avoid a lot of problems by really planning ahead.
Layers. I love layers. I don't like to be cold. I
Like
don't
once
like
you
to be
start
too
traveling
hot.
with kids,
There's 2
you
of
gotta
them in my
bring-
ears now, guys. I want you,
You
to
got to
know,
bring extra
listening at
clothes
home.
for you. You got to bring extra clothes for the kids because the kid's going to barf all over themselves. They're going to barf all over you. Like if my planning ahead has saved me many times.
I'm like, maybe I'm eating Starbucks. Maybe I'm eating CPK. Maybe I'm not eating. I don't care. It's going to be fine. I can sleep anywhere. I can give you good tips on how to sleep anywhere. There's earplugs that you can get from CVS that are like the jelly ones. Like, and those work in that works in any environment. A hoodie's great because you want something to kind of cover your head so that you feel like you're enveloped in some sort of a blanket, even if you're sitting up. And then you want to put like a little eye mask. It doesn't have to be an expensive one. And some sort of like a large sweatshirt or a coat that you can drape over yourself.
Kiran,
so you're basically
the amount
asleep.
of child-free privilege I'm hearing
I know,
from you right
I
now.
know.
If only I could do that. There is children do not leave you alone ever.
No.
That the second you have a kid, you are never ever left alone unless you're traveling without them. That's great traveling alone tips, but as Karen knows,
or with other adults, or with any other adults, or if
I
you're
don't
traveling for
trust-
work.
I don't trust other adults to be vigilant enough with like the Juniper is like she is a writer's room of ideas for how to fuck shit up constantly coming out with pitches. What if I pull this down? What if I put my hand in here? And it's like you basically need like 2 sets of eyes on her in order to
Yes,
stop
I'm not
her.
giving tips for parent travel. I mean, I actually think it's a different category altogether.
truly.
There's not it's not the same. I'm talking about
It's like traveling.
I'm talking about any human who's traveling for work, any human who's traveling with a partner, with like,
Oh, yeah.
you know what I mean?
We've
Like,
traveled with like a 55-pound dog in airports, and it was easier than traveling with a kid by car. Carol, what are your like personal rules? You're a planner. How do you plan?
Well, I'm with Alyssa. I do try to get there early, all that. I just think also TSA pre-check, like get TSA pre-check if you are traveling domestically in the United States, because I think when it first happened, I was like, what is this class warfare? Like certain people get to go on first. It's $80 for 5 years. Like it's like $20 a year, not even. And it's so worth it even if you travel 2 times a year.
And a lot of credit cards reimburse it.
Oh, amazing. Like I just think and at the holidays, TSA pre is probably like a crapshoot anyway, but that's my tip. Like I tell even my in-laws come to visit us like once a year and I'm like, get TSA pre-check. I know it's like just because it's just not taking your shoes off, not taking out your computer. All that stuff is so helpful.
Or Clear. Clear is good too.
Oh yeah.
I have both.
I haven't given my eyeballs to Clear yet, but I'm thinking about it. But my other like tip is like when I'm traveling with kids, because I would love to not check a bag, but if I'm going away for 2 weeks with like a family of 4, we have bags. I do curbside. And I always thought that was like, when I was growing up, my mom always did, they pump her gas for her. And I was like, then when I started driving, I was like, why are you doing this? Like, that seems so dumb. Just pump your own gas. But so curbside felt like that to me, like basically having someone pump your own gas. But now I'm like, you got to do it. You just get off at the airport, unload everything onto a person, and then you're free. And you just have like your kids in the stroller and their little backpacks.
Yeah. Yeah, you got to do that. My rules are direct flights only.
Oh, yeah.
Direct flights only over busy times of the year. And that does complicate things for me because my in-laws are from Pittsburgh and there are no direct flights to Pittsburgh.
My relatives are Morgantown and we have to go to Pittsburgh.
Okay, so that brings up an important point. Pittsburgh is in Appalachia.
Yeah.
It is literally in Appalachia. But if you tell someone from Pittsburgh that, they get very mad at you. But it is geographically. And
Yins get real mad when we tell you you're in Appalachia.
And like, look at a map of the It is in Appalachia. And I was telling my husband that I was going to be stressed out by traveling to Pittsburgh with a child over the holidays. Plus, we don't know who's going to take care of our pets because we're going to a place that does not have direct flights to it. And
the only direct flight from Pittsburgh to LA is on Spirit.
Yeah.
And I will not do that.
That's even worse.
Absolutely not.
And I think it's like $1,000. I mean, it's like an insane flight that it's like, who's taking this? I think that they put it up and then they cancel it because I don't think anyone buys the tickets.
It's just not, it is just not conducive to a peaceful time. It is not a nice way to start. So anyway, what we're going to do this year, because there's no direct flights to Pittsburgh, is my husband and daughter are going to go to Pittsburgh and spend Christmas there. I'm going to stay home and take care of our elderly pets, both of whom have varying degrees of like end of life illnesses. No, they'll live. It's just like a maintenance. We can't like travel with this dog that's got
can't like board them.
Yeah, exactly. And my cat, when I boarded her the last time, she tried to die. She got so mad at me, she tried to die. So direct flights only.
Hell yeah.
I know.
My cat has swag.
You guys have the same attitude, Karen. My cat and you.
Hell yeah.
Seriously.
They're like, I don't care about any of my shit. My litter box, let it burn.
Yeah,
It's like
trying to die.
I was like, my favorite part of this podcast is looking over at Dana while we listen to you guys talk about Appalachian, and we're like,
and having kids.
Interesting. And we're like,
Yeah, that seems hard.
So anyway, direct flights only. I also have like a toiletry bag that I always have in my suitcase that is always packed.
Yep.
So I don't need to like the night before be like, do I have this? Do I have this? Do I have this? I have like a dual set of makeup that is in tiny sizes and it's always packed. And then I also like give myself some time and try to figure out before I land where I need to catch the Uber so that I can get out of the plane and immediately. So I'm not like looking for signs or whatever. I'm like, I try to be like the first. I would try to win the plane race. I like try to win the race. I book it once I get out of the plane. And so those are my like main travel hacks, I think. And then if you're traveling by car, we've done a ton of road trips. No more than 2 8-hour days in a row. Like if you're going to drive 8 hours, you can drive 8 hours the next day, but then you got to have a 4-hour or less day. If you're driving more than 8 hours, if you're driving like 10 hours, the next day you got to have a rest day. Like, and then, if you're driving 4 hours, you can do 4 hours a day for like 4 days in a row and that's fine. But you have to like really space out the long drives.
So I will say, I travel in chaos. I live in chaos and I treat the whole thing like an adventure and like I'm in it for the exercise and the aerobic activity. But I think I'm the only person on this panel who hasn't written a book.
I haven't written a book.
And that takes a lot of planning. I mean, so this is at least 2 of these bitches have written a lot of books, and then 2 of them have a bunch of kids, and that takes a lot of planning activities. I don't have a book.
It is not a great thing to always be worried about every possible contingency and to protect against it. But I do not like physical discomfort. And so it is a mantle I'm willing to take on to protect myself.
For anyone who travels by train, specifically Amtrak, in many of the bigger stations, there's something called Red Cap service. They are lovely people who have red caps, and they will help you with your bags. But the truth is, you don't have to have a lot of bags. You can just go up and say, I would like Red Cap, and someone will come help you with your tiny bag, but you get to go board the train first.
Ooh.
And so all you have
hack.
to do is pay a tip. I
How
tip
much
generously.
is the tip?
I usually give $20. I mean, they're doing me a solid. And they take you down, but then you can get the exact seat that you want. You can get a window. Like for me, I don't like the sun. It's depending on the time of day. I don't want the sun shining in my face for the full however many hours. Well, exactly. But I'm just saying Red Cap for especially people with kids. A lot of people don't know it exists. It is super, super helpful.
Yeah. I love train travel.
I
by the way.
do too. Can we talk about how
I'm obsessed with trains.
I am too. It is egregious that we don't have more trains.
Taking trains in Europe and like taking the channel from England to France is like you just walk on and you're on a train and then you're in Paris.
Yeah.
It's like the best thing in the world.
Yeah. I remember when I lived on the East Coast, it was like my favorite way to travel. Like, why wouldn't you take the Acela? It costs about the same as a plane ticket from New York to DC, but the experience is so much more pleasant. It's so much more pleasant.
I went to school in Providence, and the minute that I could afford, I used to, when I needed to go to New York, take like the bus. And the minute that I could afford to take the train, I was like, I'm an international businesswoman. That I bought like a new J. Crew jacket. I like felt very, it was the height of sophistication.
Alyssa, I love the Vermonter.
The Vermonter
train
is a
that
wonderful,
goes,
wonderful
so
train.
Great.
Except,
beautiful.
The problem is now we need some infrastructure investment in our country because I was supposed to take the train down to the city tonight. And it's canceled. And I was like, okay, well, I'll book for tomorrow morning. And it's still canceled because there's apparently some building over the tracks that's going to fall down or something. I'm like,
oh my God.
Well, this is inconvenient. This is inconvenient, but otherwise highly convenient.
I just feel like I don't know. It seems like ridiculous to me that we haven't been like, hey, guess what? Climate change making flying a lot more like erratically available. You know, like if we're going to have like a lot more intense blizzards, intense hurricane seasons, intense storms, weird weather, we can't just like, and in Phoenix, sometimes it's so hot planes can't take off. Like, we need to maybe plan for some resiliency around like, long distance travel. And we're sort of just not. We're just kind of like, nah, you know what? The kids will figure it out.
Yeah.
Give us more trains.
Honestly, the kids will figure it out should be on the seal of the U.S. instead of e pluribus unum. It should be, the kids will figure it out because that's what they've done since the founding of this country. And none of the kids have figured it out. I wish that there were trains. There's like a surf rider on the West Coast that'll take you down to San Diego.
Oh, yeah, but half the time you can't take it because the ocean is like, this coast is crumbling.
Right. Yeah, it's the surf faller or the surf derailer. Okay, so I think we all kind of agree, we've been dancing around this, that airplane travel is like the worst form of transportation. Like, would you rather take a bus than an airplane?
No, I would rather a bus. A bus is hell to me.
Really?
I would rather take a plane.
I don't love buses, but planes, trains and cars are better.
We agree that plane travel is pretty bad. Right?
I mean, I'm the only one on the page. Bring it on, burn it down. Who cares? It's fine. It's fine. Relax.
Well, as the most relaxed person here when it comes to travel, like, are there things that people do in air travel that you're just like, them not doing it would improve the experience? Like, how could air travel be improved?
How long do we have?
Yeah, I mean, that's why I got those earplugs and that hoodie. You know what I mean? So don't have to look at anyone, or that's my Gen Z equivalent of Alyssa's noise canceling headphones. It's like, this is what keeps me safe and calm. Yeah, is this
just not paying attention to anything that's going on?
I can sleep anywhere. I don't think you understand the level to which I say I can sleep anywhere. It's a skill that it's a lot of like Taika Waititi. Have you seen, like, he can nap anywhere. There's these videos of like Will Smith napping anywhere. And I was like, I share this skill.
That's amazing.
With these people.
It's like CEOs that only need 4 hours of sleep.
No, it's the opposite.
Yeah, you can sleep anywhere. That's great. Alyssa, how would you, like, what are some general conduct rules on planes that you would like to see either enforced or like obeyed?
Okay. So I don't know if these are laws, but they should be common courtesy, which is that if you are on a plane that is supposed to have people sleeping on it, please shut your window shades.
Yes.
Like, I will book a window. Like, I can't tell you the level of rage that I can get to if I have gone through so much trouble so as to book myself on the window seat so that I can control the shade. But then someone who is sitting somewhere where their open window is like the sun blinding me, it drives me so crazy. I have asked flight attendants, like, can you please have that person shut their window shade? Like, I just think it's so rude. It is the thing that drives me crazy. That and bringing food that stinks on the plane. Those are two things that just, that smell's going to be there for a long time. Just get turkey. You don't need tuna.
There's nothing I hate more than a person just staring out their window at the wonderment of like the miracle of flight. Like, I'm just like, shut that shade.
Shut the shade.
You get it. We're in the clouds. It's gorgeous. Shut the fucking shade.
Can I say my least favorite thing is after a flight lands, when people stand up before the door is even opened, you're like, why are we crowding these aisles with these low ceilings? We're in the back. One, the door has to open. Then first class will file out. Then people will gradually come. Give it a minute. We don't need to feel like cattle right now.
A friend of mine said this to me once. Said, when I get mad about a lot of stuff. I'm a comic.
That's part of your job.
It's part of your job.
You have to.
It's part of your job. And he's like, you just got to remember, like, 8 out of 10 people are bad at their jobs.
That's what I was just
why are you
saying
like,
to my
it's
God.
not, it's truly not personal. They're not doing it to you. They're just doing it. That's just how they're doing it. That's how they're doing it in their life. And let it wash over you. Surrender to the wave of shit. And you will be so much happier. The level of blood pressure over a fucking window shade, guys.
No, I'm trying to sleep, girl. I'm trying to sleep. And like, it's always
why
somebody.
Why don't you have the eye patches? Why?
I don't like eye patches.
You don't, but that's
You can
that's in
sense
front
light.
of your face. You can control that.
You can
like
sense
control.
light through an eye patch. I will
Yeah.
say that. I feel like you can.
Not if you get a great one. Get a great one.
I think it's frustrating because
I know what I'm gifting these two bitches now.
But because it's frustrating to know that you exist in a world with people that have so little self-awareness and common courtesy.
Yeah.
So
But
it's
you've
beyond-
seen politics. You work in politics.
Yeah.
Why would you think it would be different on a plane?
Even Mitt Romney would shut the window.
Yes.
Yes, he
even
would.
would shut
Mitt
it.
Romney is not sitting in coach.
No, he's not. Maybe he is.
Mitt Romney is in
Okay,
a
no,
jet
like,
on a
definitely not.
sleeper plane. That's why he doesn't act. That's why there's never a time when it's like, can I recline?
Okay, but like
he's a fucking billionaire.
Adjacent to like what Dana said, my number one thing is when someone from the rows behind tries to go first. Like, it is a file out process. This row goes, then this row goes, then this row goes. You don't get to go first because you're standing up and your little bag is ready to go. Like, I hate that. So what you're basically saying, let people be idiots. And I'm saying, no, there's a system to this. This is how society functions.
You're part German,
like,
right?
You can't, no.
Yeah.
No, that's it. Just reminds me of
Karen.
like I feel
No,
like
that's but the Germans and the Swiss have that, the schedule. I remember one time.
I'm German.
Also, Germans will tell you when you're doing something wrong. They'll be like, you're doing that wrong.
One time I was like, like the woman was taking forever, so I was like, I'll just move past her. And she's like, "There's a system," and she like literally was like,
But I like systems.
She
but I am
physically pushed me, and then I was like, yeah, it was crazy.
So much Capricorn energy. Just so much
Oh my God.
Capricorn
But
energy.
systems,
from
as a Capricorn, systems make things
Yeah.
more efficient.
Thank you. I'm a Capricorn rising.
I'm gonna say things that people should obey on planes. The feet thing. I think if you're gonna take your shoes off, you have to have some kind of a slipper or a slipper sock to put over your feet because, you can put on glasses to block or whatever, mask to block the sun, maybe. But like, are you supposed to get a nose plug to block the smell of people's stinky ass feet? Don't encroach.
That's so gross.
Don't encroach on other people's space. If you've got, you are not entitled to the space outside. I'm sorry. Like, everybody, I'm sorry. The airline is responsible for like making us crammed into a space like sardines, but you are not entitled to spread your legs out so that you're taking up space that is in front of somebody else's seat. You're not entitled to that. The person who's sitting in the middle is entitled to both armrests.
Yes.
Because if you're sitting on the window, you have one armrest. If you're sitting on the aisle, you have one armrest. The middle seat sucks. They get both of the armrests. I think don't fuck around with your tray table too much, especially if you're on a sleeping flight. Decide if it's going to be up or it's going to be down because that bothers the person in front of you. That bothers the person in front of you. Just be thoughtful. Be intentional. Like, okay, I'm going to eat now. I'm going to take it down, but don't like fuck around with it.
I think just try to be respectful. Realize that this is hard for everyone.
Yeah.
And just be aware that you are in a contained space with hundreds of people.
Yeah. I mean, and it's if you're expecting an individual experience that caters to your every whim, then I guess make enough money to fly private or, deal with some of the pratfalls of flying with a bunch of people. I'll also say that a thing that drives me a little nuts is, there are tiers of how much of seat costs, right? So like there are some seats that are more expensive than other seats. I have no problem with people in the same seat class asking to switch so they can sit with a child or sit with a relative or sit with the person they're traveling with. Totally fair. But if you have one person that's booked in seat 36F and another one that's booked in 6A, you do not get to ask the person in 6B to go back to 36F. That is not a reasonable request. That is, look, you should have planned better and booked in the same class, or you move back to 36G or whatever.
Yeah.
And you don't ask someone in the more expensive seat to switch to a cheaper seat because you want to have a person you paid less for sit next to you.
My friend Monica Nevi is a comic. She's out of Seattle and she's hilarious. She has a podcast called Dumb Pitches, very funny. And she has her best travel tips. And as I listen to this panel, she just goes, don't go. She goes, don't go.
You do what you have to do for the people you love.
That's true. And that's a good thought to end on. You do what you have to do for the people
that you love.